Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? I know y'all are like, wait a minute, it's not 3 o'clock Central on Sunday. It's noon Central. What's going on? We actually have a very special edition of the show. Yesterday we had two launches, and just as promised last week, or as promised during the videos that we've been doing, um, we hit number one best-selling 300 Amazon number one best-selling authors. So today we're joined by one of the authors who launched his book yesterday and had an amazing launch and hit in 11 categories. Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr. What's going on, sir?
How you doing, Sugar Ray? I'm great.
Oh man, listen, I'm feeling amazing. I'm on, I don't know, cloud 13 right now. Cloud 13.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things I could go on and on, because when we, from the time that we've met and we've actually talked about everything that is included in your book and why you wrote the book and just finding out who you are as a man, is so many amazing things that I can actually say. But I'm gonna veer to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr.?
First of all, I'm a son. I'm a father. I'm a husband. Um, I'm a good friend to many people. Um, Professionally wise, I got a long IT background, so I've been in IT for the last 30 plus years, um, for the most part. And I just wrote a story just about my journey with my parents, with my mother. And the thing about it, I just want to just reiterate that we had like a really close relationship. And so when she became ill with the disease, it was difficult. So that's a little bit about me. But yeah,
Yes.
I'm Norris. I'm married. I got a wife. I have two kids, and I have three grandchildren. I got two granddaughters and a grandson,
Oh man,
and
that's
that's pretty
amazing.
much it about me.
Yeah, legacy, man. Listen, so outside of it's like I said, there's so many amazing qualities about you, and that's the reason that this book even exists, is because of what happened in your life and you stepping up to the plate. Um, so I want to get a little bit of the background story on it. Tell me a little bit about, you said your relationship with your mom was very strong. Tell me a little bit about your mom pre Alzheimer's.
Yeah, my mother, was born and raised in Mississippi. That's where I was born as well. In Winona, Mississippi, she had 11. It was 11 of them. She had two sisters and she had eight brothers. They lived on a small farm in Mississippi. She went to college in Ida Bena at Valley State. That's when she met my dad. And from what I understand, they had like this 2-year romance, and they later they got married, and they had me. Um, they were living in Mississippi at the time, and they didn't live too far from where I'm trying to think of the person's name, that guy that got killed back in the 50s. It's from
Emmett Till?
Emmett Till, yeah. That's what I was trying to say. And so when and that traumatized, I think, my mother more so than my dad. And so after she had me, she realized that she couldn't raise me here in Mississippi, and so that's why I made a decision to move to St. Louis. And they came here, and my dad ended up getting the opportunity. He got a job at General Motors, and then she worked as a school teacher because she was her degree was in business education. And so she ended up become certified, became a certified teacher, and she worked in St. Louis public schools, um, you know, up till she got sick.
Yes, sir.
and so we had a good life. I mean, we had a really good life. I mean, I'm really happy. I had a good childhood. We initially moved into they first came to St. Louis. They lived in North St. Louis. For people that are familiar with St. Louis, and we lived in a four-family flat that was owned by my great Aunt D. And so it was always family around me. I was surrounded by a lot of family, and so we had a lot of extended family. And so a lot of my extended family on my maternal and my paternal side, they all had relocated to St. Louis. And so like on Sundays we always had family gatherings, and so go to church and there was family. Then after dinner, go and visit family. And my mother, she was that person that, how can I describe her? I mean, she was a beautiful lady, first of all, but she had this personality that was like magnetic. Everybody just loved her. She's everybody's favorite sister, everybody's favorite niece, cousin, daughter. I mean, she was a favorite. She was a middle daughter in the family, and she had this great sense of style and great sense of passion. My mother, she was a seamstress. I mean, she could sew anything. And so she pretty much made all her clothes. So anytime like a formal event, she made her own outfit herself, and she loved to cook. That's another thing she loved to do was cook. And so every Sunday, my family, my little family, we would go over my parents' house after church, and we would always have family dinners. And so we kept that tradition up. I mean, up till um, up to my up to my mother passed. And so, I mean, she wasn't still cooking dinner anymore. My wife picked up the mantle and started cooking dinner for the family. But
Yeah.
we were big into the family gatherings, and just spending time together. And I made and my mother also was a school teacher, and so we traveled a lot and so because she was a school teacher, um, I was able to go back and forth to Mississippi a lot. And so I spent we would spend like weeks at a time in Mississippi, like especially in the summertime. And we spent every Christmas in Mississippi with my grandparents, because my maternal grandparents and my paternal grandparents both lived in Mississippi. And so my parents are very well connected to their extended family there. And so, it almost like I was raised in both places. It was kind of like seamless. It was a situation where I just, you know, a large chunk of my life was in St. Louis, but it was a large chunk as well that was also in Mississippi. So that was kind of a bit by my mother, but um, the best way to describe my mother, um, she was just this real loving, caring person, and she just when she walked out the house, you just have to know her. When she walked out the house, it looked like she walked off the page of Vogue magazine. And so,
Mm.
I mean, so and people would, and it was like even going to the grocery store, it was like, you know, she'd be literally looking like she was going somewhere other than the grocery store, but she just believed in dressing, and she used to always say, um, just because you may have no more than $2 in your pocket, you don't have to look like it.
Mhm. Hey,
So
listen,
yeah, go ahead.
no, sounds like she stayed dressed to the nines. And that's something that, I can truly relate. John Josias John Pierre said, "Bro, I got your book and it's amazing read. I'm needing a physical copy from you." Hey, we're definitely gonna put the website up so that you all can get your physical copies from Dr. Roberts as well. Yeah, man, your mom sounds like an amazing woman, and I can tell that that you all had that that relationship of, you know, mother, son, as they say, the mom is always the son's first love, because this is what he sees to be the essence of a woman that, you know, that he's out there. And so it sounds like she definitely was that glue that brought the family together as well. Would you say that?
Yeah, she was the glue. My mother definitely was the glue. She was the glue, and she was always also the magnet that kept everybody together. I just remember we used to go to Mississippi, and I had like a lot of uncles, um, and so usually I go, you know, go into town with one of my uncles. That I be in town with them, you know, and then we'd be downtown Winona, and then people would see me, and they're like immediately know them because they saw me, they knew my mother was here. And when she arrived down there, it's like everybody just flocked to my grandparents' house to go see my mother.
Huh.
I mean, it was like you would have thought that the way I describe it, when she touched down in Mississippi, it was like Halle Berry had touched down in Hollywood on the
I
red
know.
carpet. It was just like that. I mean, she was like the. I mean, everybody would come over, and just have we just have a good time, and so she was there, and so everybody knew my mom, and the whole town knew her. And then they just looked at me and said, "Oh, Daisy must be here," because I wouldn't be there if she wasn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, man, we got more to come. We want to hear more of the story, the pre, and then also you know, the story of why you wrote the book. Mama is still here. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back in about 2 and 2. Business of Books Mastermind Coaching Program has been around for the past 3 years. Myself as a coach, we've actually helped hundreds of authors get their books published and even more to become Amazon #1 best-selling authors. Over the past year and a half, we started our Amazon bestseller launch program, and 225 plus to date have all become #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories. Now, the reason that we started this coaching program is for people like you who you've either just started working on your first book and you don't know where to go with it. You're looking for a blueprint to creating your book. You're wondering how to market your book. You're wondering about how to connect with your audience. And most importantly, how am I going to sell this book and create income from it? These are all things that we teach you inside of 90 Days to Bestseller. The reason that this program is relevant to you is because you want to write that book and you want to be successful. Now that person may not be you. Here's the opposite. You've already written your book and you want to relaunch it as a bestseller. Been there, done that. My first book, I actually changed the cover twice for that exact same reason. The first cover, I loved it. But for some reason, after a while, it got stale. It was sitting on the shelf. So I created my own cover. Bad idea, right? The reason that it was a bad idea is because it looked like somebody was creating a network marketing flyer for my book. Went back and let a professional do it. Keyword, professional. Once that professional got their hands on my book, changed the book cover, it created a completely different vibe for my book. And here's what we've done as a result. From that change, from those slight changes, having a professional designer, going and hiring a professional editor, that book has actually launched a career for me that has taken me around the globe. And when I say around the globe, I've spoken at places all across the country and even done a few virtual international workshops here in the past few months. Now, for you, we can show you the exact same thing. We have the blueprint, we have the tools, we have the system that will work to help you get your book published and launched as an Amazon bestseller. Now, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 90 days. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be overnight. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but we will tell you that we have a blueprint that works and you should be next. All right. We are back. Um, Dr. Roberts, if you are are paying attention and have been watching and joining us, we're talking with Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr. And his story is amazing. His book, uh, Mama is Still Here, is is beyond next level. The words that he's written in it, it talks about his story of a son who saw his mom go through the Alzheimer's process. We so we've been discussing his book, discussing his ideas. We actually did a relaunch with him yesterday, and that relaunch, he took his book from being a great book to another Amazon #1 bestseller. So if you're out there, right now he's getting some things taken care of on his end. Looks like we had some technical difficulties, but technical difficulties just gives us the time to talk. Um, what what I would say is the last 300 authors that we've worked with have all went #1 on Amazon. Dr. Roberts, is his book though is so amazing and so powerful, and I cannot wait for you all to hear more from him. Miss Shadina Divine, I love what you said. You said that, and I'll put it back up here. You said our parents had the mindset to always present the best of themselves in public, even if it was a quick grocery store run. They made it a point to dress to the nines. Yeah, I learned the same thing from my parents. My parents, my dad especially, said, you know what? Said it doesn't matter if you got a pair of jeans that you've had for 10 years, you better put some starch on that, iron it up, and and by the time people see you again, it looks like you got on something brand new. And that's the mindset that I've always had, is, even take care of what you have, so that when you step out there, the world sees you, not for the stereotypes that we automatically get put into, but the world sees you for the amazing individual that you are. And Miss, and I pray I'm saying your name right, Miss Sedina Divine said, unfortunately, that premise has been lost for the generations that follow. Nowadays, we see folks in hair bonnets or pajamas at the store. Yeah, we see that all the time, and it's a level of excellence that is that we that we need to bring back. I think, if just listening from Dr. Robert's story, it reminds me of, if you watch even the movies from back in the day, you would see you would see us dressed in the three-piece suits, or you see the nice hats that men wore. You see the nice shoes. You see that men were stepping out in suits and ties, because they had pride in who they were and what they did. And you see the ladies dressing with the dresses that show their regality. And what I mean by that is, I don't look at, maybe when I was younger, and I'm gonna age myself a little bit, but I grew up in that cash money, no limit, hip hop back in the day, when we didn't use the best words to describe our counterparts, describe our women. But as I've grown older and read the books, especially the good book, the Bible, and it shows you the strength of what a woman is. I see that regality in them, and I think there's nothing more attractive than a woman who knows her strength and knows how to leave a legacy without necessarily showing every everything. Leave a little bit of something hidden, but at the same time, carry yourself as the queen that you are. And that's exactly what Dr. Norris Roberts' mother did. So yeah, we definitely saw a change in generations. Looks like we got Dr. Roberts back, man. Listen, you got me carrying the stream by myself. They don't want to hear me talk. They want to hear about you.
I'm sorry about that. Having technical difficulties at the wrong time.
Oh man, listen, when the devil sees you doing something good, he always gets busy, right?
Exactly. That's what's happening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, as we dive into your story, you were talking about your mom um, pre Alzheimer's, and what most people see when they see you is, okay, he's a man of strength because he did all these amazing things. Tell us a little bit about what it was like being a caregiver for your mom during that time.
I mean, it was difficult. It was just difficult because of the emotional attachment that I had with my mother. And then a lot of it just trial and error. I didn't do everything right the first time. Some of it I just figured it out as time progressed. But the way I think and the way I process, I started doing like a lot of reading, a lot of research, just trying to understand. Because my whole thing, I got to understand what's happening. If I can understand what was happening, I can be a more effective caregiver. And a lot of what was happening for me was that it was like a lot of fear. And so
Yeah,
I had to, hold on for a second.
we get it right. We get it right. It looks good.
Yeah, I was just trying to,
But you said there was a lot of fear.
there was a lot
There
of
you
fear that
there
I
you
had to get past. And so once I got past the fear, then that's when things started to do better.
Yeah,
So I got
yeah,
better. So I got better with time. That's what I like to pretty much say. I got better with time. And and then the other thing, it was my faith that got me through it for the most part. I had to really, I mean, I did a lot of praying at that time, but it got better and better. And once I understood how the disease worked, and then I was able to understand why she was exhibiting the behaviors that she was exhibiting. But the key to my message is that, you guys stay present. Just because things ain't like, this is not Burger King. You can't have it your way. And so
yeah,
just because things are not the way that they were before, and it's not the way you envision for it to be, going forward in the future, you just have to just I just kept going and kept going. The one thing I would say, I really never thought about it. I never really thought about um, that, like I had an option, like an opt out. That never ran across my mind. It was like I was here until the bitter end. I wasn't going to never leave her side.
yeah,
So, um, for some people, when it gets tough, they just kind of just want to go on to hide and hibernate, and that's something I didn't do. When it got tougher, I got tougher with it, and it wasn't just my mother I had to take care of, my dad as well, because he was losing his wife. And,
yeah,
and and that's the part I was looking at. It was like he's I mean, she's my mother, and that's a huge loss for me. But me being a husband, and I understood it was even a bigger loss for him
yeah,
because he's losing his marriage. I mean, the marriage is still intact, but he's losing the wife that he's known for years and years and years. And when I say he's losing her, I mean, because sometimes she didn't know who he was. And
mhm,
so a lot of times she did. And that's hard when you done, sat here and, had a long, full life with a person and they look at you and not know who you are,
yeah,
and so, he lost a lot. And so a lot of, and I just really appreciated how he cared for my mother. And so I gained a whole new appreciation for my dad because he really exhibited how a husband should take care of a sick wife, because that he didn't miss a beat, he didn't miss a step.
Yeah.
And when I say that, he continued to take, he kept her up like she would keep herself up. He kept taking her to the beauty shop. He kept dressing her like she would dress herself. He kept socializing her, kept, taking her out to dinner and different places. He didn't just like, because a lot of times people get like Alzheimer's or dementia, people just put them like in a room and they
Yeah.
just don't even take them anywhere. They just hide them. And that's not what my dad did. My mother was out front. As long as she could move, she was out front. He took her walking every day. Um, and we still did our Sunday dinners. And so they didn't come to my house. We went out to dinner to a restaurant, and we just kept making it happen. If my mother had some anxiety episodes when we were going out, we just dealt with it. You know, if people there were some long stares because of her behavior, we just, we didn't worry about that. Our focus was always on her. We wanted to make sure that she was okay and that she was not left out. And that was my dad's biggest thing. He did not want her to be left out of anything
Yeah.
because she was his everything. And it was just, you see, and then to see it up close, you know, because I had to stand the gap a lot of times for him with her. I saw it, and it was just it just made me just appreciate him more, and really just appreciate even my own marriage more, because of that could happen to any of us. That could happen to me or my wife. One of us could come down with that, and they'd be going through the same journey that my parents went through. So it's just you just don't never know. You just don't never know what's going to happen to a person, and you really have to live your life. You know, you gotta just live your life, and nothing's promised to any of us. And so, my idea is that I was going to have my parents way into their 90s, maybe 100, and it didn't happen. My mother, she died at 74. Um, and so, I mean, she didn't get a chance to really enjoy her great grandkids, and it was just really, when I think about it, sometimes it was just kind of really disturbing because of my mother was that individual that really took good care of herself. I mean, she was very health conscious. I mean, she actually believed and lived by the fact that the thing that Benjamin Franklin would say, apple a day would keep the doctor away. I mean, she literally ate an apple every day. She was very fit, all her entire life. Um, I mean, when I was growing up, my mother rode bikes with me. And so when I was a kid riding my bike, a lot of people thought my mother was my sister. And, of course she wasn't, but because she was out there playing like I was playing. And so she was very much a kid at heart.
Yeah.
We like I remember in the summer times, we would ride through the neighborhood together, and she'd be right there with me, riding up down the hills in the neighborhood that we lived in. And she'll do it, every day with me. I mean, I ride the bike all day long, but she'll come out and she said, let's go for a bike ride. We ride and we'd go up and down the neighborhood. And I remember one of the neighbors down the street, and they would say, I always see Mr. Roberts, and I see his kids, but I never see his wife. And it's our next door neighbor said, that is his wife. And the guy said, well, he must have a young wife. And they said, oh, she actually older than he is.
Come on.
So, yeah, that just kind of give you an indicator. I mean, she was just, and I was involved in a lot of stuff and growing. I was in Boy Scouts. My mother was, she was into the scouting thing with me and stuff. And she, I played piano. piano growing up, and I ran track, and she would beat all my track meets, and she would take me to track practice, and she was just, I mean, I was into karate for a while, and I mean, I was a very busy child. I kept her busy, and so I was always into something, and so she supported it. She's always was that chauffeur taking me back and forth. Before I was a kid and couldn't, drive myself anywhere. But going to church, she was there. I was very active in church. Um, I used to play the piano for our Sunday school before we went into Sunday school classes. I would play a couple of hymns and that kind of thing, and she'd be right there with us. So yeah, she was just. I had a wonderful mother, wonderful upbringing. Um, Going through college, she was very supportive, always there. Um, I just remember when I graduated from college, and she had I got a picture with her holding. I'm holding my degree, and then and she's sitting there just as proud. But and then the thing about it, my mother, she's always, she was always fashion conscious. So she had, my school colors was red and white, and so she made sure she wore a red dress to the graduation.
Come on.
It just and and then the other thing, her and then her and my wife, they got along. I mean, that was a great relationship. 'Cause it wasn't. Sometimes a mother, especially one that got the mama's boy, and they get married. And so sometimes you hear stories about the mother being jealous and that kind of thing. My wife and mother, they were like, they were very similar. So I kind of really married my mother by marrying my wife because they had a lot of the same quality. They both were educators. They both were teachers. They had the same interests. They both liked to sew. They both loved to cook. And so they exchanged recipes all the time. Um, they loved the same guy, which was me. So it was just a great relationship that we all just shared, and we did a lot of family trips together. I remember my mother, even after she got Alzheimer's, we all went to Florida, and it was me, my dad, and my two kids. We went to Florida, and so we were going to a cousin's wedding, my first cousins in Lakeland. So we made like a trip out of it. So my wife, she kind of really planned everything, and she took into account that my mother, was suffering with the Alzheimer's, and she was probably in the moderate stages of it at that point. And so she was still really mobile, but my wife, she just really helped us navigate that trip, and so we made it. They wouldn't be stressful um, for her. So so all I'm gonna say was just my wife was always very supportive of my I mean of the family, and my mother was always very supportive of my wife, and it was just a good relationship. It's probably the best thing I can say. Um, yeah.
Nah, I can see you light up as you're sharing the story of your mom and uh and how the relationships were flowing and just the great woman that she was. Um, what we're gonna do is take another quick commercial break. And after that commercial break, we're gonna come back and hear a little bit more about the journey when you began the caretaking experience with
Okay.
your mom. All right, so we'll be back in about another two and two. We'll be right back.
Thank
I would like to say that my encounters with Sugar Ray and his staff has always been positive. I mean, every single step of the way, from the editing, from the cover design, from the orders, from the publicizing, from everything. I mean, I've been very, very ecstatic about how Sugar Ray has orchestrated this company and the way he moves through the business. I mean, smoothness is the key. I mean, so you have to be smooth in this line of business and most line of businesses, and I'll give you an A+ on it.
Hello and welcome to the BOBM editing site. I'm here to tell you a little bit about who we are as an editing team at BOBM. Why BOBM? Why even bother with a professional editor? I'm glad you asked. There are several benefits to having a professional editor and team touching your work, making the value of your hard work's gem go from just a dull shine to a glowing luster. This is what we do. The value of having a team behind you, believing in your work, not working alone on something so very important is priceless. BOBM's editors do developmental, line, and copy editing services. We look for plot holes, and we ensure your story makes sense, correct nuts and bolts grammar issues, and even more. Not only that, our processes are client-centered. Our BOBM editing team takes pride in the fact that we do not destroy your authenticity or your voice as an author. I am an editor with BOBM, and we look forward to making your writing dreams become a reality with the Business of Books Mastermind Publishing Group. Let's get to work.
All right. We are back once again. Listen, if you all are just tuning in, you've been missing some amazing conversation between myself and Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr. Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr. His book actually hit #1 in 11 categories yesterday on Amazon. We did a launch for him, but that's like beyond what we even discussing. What we're talking about today is his journey, and the reason that he wrote the book. You know, Mama is Still Here. Had an amazing mother, and if you look at the comments, you'll even see that people are just energized by the way that you're even describing your mom and talking about how amazing she was as a woman. And so I want to dive a little bit deeper with you into not just who she was, but tell us a little bit about what it was like to be the caretaker for your mom, because I know some of us that do still have our parents living. I've expressed it many times. This is something that one of my biggest concerns is making sure that I'm in that position to be able to be there for them if that time comes.
Yeah, it just a matter of well, my dad was pretty much taking care of mom in the early part of her illness. I was there a lot. I was there almost every day. As she got worse and it progressed, then I was there almost not all the time, but like every day I was there. And so the way the disease worked, the first thing to go is your short-term memory. And then and how the short-term memory worked, I described it yesterday. It worked just like your computer. You got like random access memory on your laptop, and it's like you sit here and you're typing this document, and once you get ready to save, then the power goes out. That's how Alzheimer's works. And then at the same time, it's also erasing your long-term memories, which is like the data that's on your hard drive. And so it's working on the person from both ends. And so what ends up happening is that the people that came into life later in life are the ones they tend to get erased first. And so, like in my situation, my mother, when I was growing up, she always said that I reminded her of her brother Howard. And so, and she said we had the same spirit. So at one point she got to the place that she couldn't even remember my name anymore. She didn't even call me by my name. She called me by my uncle's Howard's name, because that was the only thing she can like draw from. So I became Howard, and I started responding to Howard. But for a lot of people, they'd be upset by it, but I wasn't, because I understood that she was doing the best she can do. And that's why I tell people all the time, when a person is sick and they not responding the way they did in the past, you know, you got to understand they're doing the best they can do. So my mother, she just, I think what I believe, as Alzheimer's started to deteriorate her, her memory, I think her spiritual awareness heightened. And so she didn't know, may not know my name, but she knew my spirit. But the one thing I can say about my mother, it's a part of that disease that make a person violent. And what I can say, she was never violent with me. She was violent sometimes with my dad. I mean, a lot of times with him. And so I had to come there and rescue them or rescue him in the situation, because she'd get that broom and she'd go to town on him. And so, what I started to do, I mean, he'll call me and tell me that, that she's fighting him. And so I just get in my car immediately and I go over there to see what's going on. And then what was happening, she didn't know who he was. She thought he was like someone broke in the house trying to attack her. And so, but for some reason with me and her, she was always calm with me. And I can't explain it, but when I was in the room, she was calm. And so I got there, first thing I did, I prayed. That's why I put the prayers in the book. I prayed first before I got walked into the house, because I didn't know what I was walking into. And then after I prayed, and I'll go in there, and I found her laying on the bed, and she's sitting there with 15 outfits on top of her. Or she may be wearing like 8 outfits, because that's part of the disease. And so, I get out all those clothes and get out to just one outfit. And then I start talking to her, and then, one time she told me that it was that this man broke into the house, and she beat him up with this broom. And so. And so he's gone now. And so then I brought my dad into the room. I said, "So is this the man that was bothering you?" And she looked at him and she said, "No, that's not him. He's an old man. It was a young man." And so I'm looking like, okay, well, how are we going to make this work? And so she said, "I've been looking for Norris." That's my dad's name is Norris. He's Norris as well. We call him Norris. He's Norris Senior. And she'll say that, and then I said, she said, "I've been looking for Norris. Where is he?" I said, "He's right here." And she's like, "No, I haven't. I've been looking for him all this time. He know he's not supposed to leave me." And then all of a sudden she just looked at him, and then she'll say, "Norris, where you been? I've been looking for you." Oh, and then she'll grab his hands, and she'll start walking. She'll lead him into the family room and sit down beside of him on the couch. And you just, sometimes you just sit back and just say, wow, because she really didn't know who he was. So I had to, be in the gap for a lot of those situations. And as she got progressed through the disease and further, she got to a place where she couldn't even feed herself anymore. And so we had to start feeding her. I mean, she was mobile, but she couldn't feed herself. She couldn't navigate the spoon and fork anymore. She could drink, but she couldn't navigate. So we would feed her. And a lot of times I'd be at my parents' house and I would just feed my dad feed my mom while my dad ate. Because if I wasn't there, he couldn't eat with her. He had to feed her first, then feed himself. And at the time, my dad, he's like a chronic diabetic. And so when it's time for him to eat, he needs to eat. And so I was there a lot of times just to feed her so they can eat together and provide some kind of normalcy, to life and to their relationship. But, you just never knew what was going to, you just never knew. We could be in a good mood and all of a sudden she have an anxiety attack and everything goes south real quick. And the thing I would tell people all the time, the thing that I did, what you try to do, you try to keep them safe and comfort them. And so part of keeping them safe is making sure you got all the knives and forks put up somewhere. Another thing I had to do was make sure that all of the detergents and poisonous stuff was put up, locked away. Because one time she went into she got one in the sink and got some pine sol and she was going to pour it and she was about to drink it. And I stopped her because she thought it was lemonade. So you just got to put, because it's like having a little kid in the house. They just don't know. And you just got to make the whole house safe. And that means locking up anything that's sharp that they can hurt themselves or hurt somebody else with. Then also having to lock up anything that was poisonous that she can digest, that she can think is Kool-Aid or tea or something, and that'd be a horrific problem. Then because one of the problems is that they can't tell you what's wrong with them, and so that's another challenge. Like going to the doctor's office. Yeah. How do you give a person an eye exam? They can't even read the chart. It makes the doctor's job very, very limiting because you need some information from the person to know what's wrong, what what their issues are. But when they have Alzheimer's, they can't communicate that to you. So you have to just really watch them and really give an understanding about what is bothering them. Like it may be rubbing a certain area all the time. You have to know that it's something they're bothering them. And you have to be the voice for them when they go to the doctor and things like that. But it's just a lot of things. It's like one time I remember my parents they came to my house for Sunday dinner. So it got to a point I had to drive. I would drive to their house and bring them, and then I pick them up, bring them to my house. And so my mother always wanted to sit in the front seat, and then she was still real mobile. But this one day, she was on my front porch in my house, and she got to the door. I opened the screen door up, and she just said, "Are you serious?" And I said, and I was wondering what's happening because she just stopped. And then I just followed her eyes. I followed her eyes, and I realized that she was looking at the welcome mat on the front door. And because I knew a lot about the disease, I did a lot of research. I realized she thought that the welcome mat on the front door was a hole in the porch, and she thought it was a hole that she could fall into. Oh. So I picked up the welcome mat and I threw it over in the flower and over in the landscape where the bushes were real quick. And she looked at me and she said, "How you do that?" And she has walked on in the house. But I share that story to let people know that, a lot of people, they would just say, they would just try to force the person over the threshold and try over the welcome mat. But that would have ruined the whole dinner. Because the whole point of us coming to my house is to have a family dinner. If I had did that, that would have ruined everything. And it would have took me probably a good hour or more just to get her calmed down, because she would have thought that her loving son is trying to push her down this hole.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot. I mean, you just got to be, you know, when a person is sick with that disease, and to be an effective caregiver, you have to have a lot of patience, but you also have to be smart enough to communicate, to understand what the dilemma is, or how they are really perceiving things. Because if you're not doing that, it's going to be a mess. And that's one of the reasons what I like about my book is that I'm sharing some things, some wisdom, things I've learned of how to navigate through things, that the kind of symptoms that disease brings. Because if you don't, it's going to be, it could be a living hell for them and yourself. But they already going through a living hell. And so all I can do is try to minimize it. That's one thing I really can do. And just be grateful for the moments that we have that are lucid. Because the lucid moments are there. They just not there all the time. And I think the other hard thing about the disease for me was the losses. And so you get to a place where the person, they can't feed themselves anymore. Now you get to a place where they don't speak anymore. Then you get to a place where, you know, they can't dress themselves anymore, or they don't giving them a bath is difficult, because giving them a bath is difficult. They look at water being invisible, or they're trying to get them to the car is difficult. And so a lot of times, you know, my mother, her vision was impaired because of the Alzheimer's disease. So what would happen sometimes, you know how sometimes you go out to the driveway and the sun is shining and the concrete and the cement's kind of glistening.
Yeah.
And she'll think there's water. She said, "Oh, there's all this water out here. I can't swim. I'll drown." And so I just pick her up and take her to the car.
Yeah.
I said, "Okay, we got water on the ground, so I'm gonna pick you up and put you in the car." And then she's okay with that. She's okay. And so if it's raining outside, she thinks that it's like the whole street is flooded. And so you have to just I just pick her up. It's only like 100 pounds anyways, picked up real quick and put it in the car. And then before she knew it, she was all in the car strapped up, and then she was okay. So that was happening. Another thing that was happening, a lot of times with Alzheimer's, they dehydrate more. They get dehydrated because their body not absorbing water like it used to.
Yeah.
And so that means going to the hospital and having to get IV put in, and maybe staying overnight just so they can get hydrated again. So it's just an ongoing stuff you just have to do all the time. And but you can't. I think for me, I never did it in frustration. I did it always in love. I just if this is what I have to do to keep my mother here, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so I did whatever it took to keep her here and keep her as well as possible. And I think with my book, it's all about perspective, how to have a healthy perspective about caring for someone with this disease. Because otherwise, you can go crazy. And it's all about healthy perspective. So, you know, it's one of those things you can't fix. And it's one of those things there's no cure for it. There's no remedy for it. You just have to just go with it. And so a lot of it is just problem solving as you go, because you just don't. Because a lot of times you just don't know. you really just don't know, and you just don't know what to do because you don't really understand what it is that they are having struggling with. And so yeah, that was that's kind of really my there's some things I'm sharing now. Those are some things that there were challenges of being a caregiver, and a lot of it just not knowing. But I think what I tried to do is just be more I just accepted it and just moved on.
Yeah, man. Listen, we're getting getting in there, getting real deep with it, and it's heavy because this is something that a lot of us will or have or will eventually have to deal with as our parents age. Um, and I've heard it said this way: twice a child, once a man. You know, and that's exactly what you're describing is how it started, and this beautiful woman transformed into the amazing, into what happened over time. So we're gonna take another quick break. I'm very rarely at a loss for words, but right now is one of those times where we just take a quick break. We'll be back once again in about 2 and 2. Business of Books Mastermind Coaching Program has been around for the past 3 years. Myself as a coach, we've actually helped hundreds of authors get their books published and even more to become Amazon #1 best-selling authors. Over the past year and a half, we started our Amazon bestseller launch program, and 225 plus to date have all become #1 best-selling authors in multiple categories. Now, the reason that we started this coaching program is for people like you who you've either just started working on your first book and you don't know where to go with it. You're looking for a blueprint to creating your book. You're wondering how to market your book. You're wondering about how to connect with your audience. And most importantly, how am I going to sell this book and create income from it? These are all things that we teach you inside of 90 Days to Bestseller. The reason that this program is relevant to you is because you want to write that book and you want to be successful. Now that person may not be you. Here's the opposite. You've already written your book and you want to relaunch it as a bestseller. Been there, done that. My first book, I actually changed the cover twice for that exact same reason. The first cover, I loved it. But for some reason, after a while, it got stale. It was sitting on the shelf. So I created my own cover. Bad idea, right? The reason that it was a bad idea is because it looked like somebody was creating a network marketing flyer for my book. Went back and let a professional do it. Keyword, professional. Once that professional got their hands on my book, changed the book cover, it created a completely different vibe for my book. And here's what we've done as a result. From that change, from those slight changes, having a professional designer, going and hiring a professional editor, that book has actually launched a career for me that has taken me around the globe. And when I say around the globe, I've spoken at places all across the country and even done a few virtual international workshops here in the past few months. Now, for you, we can show you the exact same thing. We have the blueprint, we have the tools, we have the system that will work to help you get your book published and launched as an Amazon bestseller. Now, how long does it take? Typically, it takes us about 90 days. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be overnight. We're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy, but we will tell you that we have a blueprint that works and you should be next. All right. We are back. with Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr. And I'm actually going to say that this has been very, very informative. The conversation, the just everything that's been going on, and people are like, you know what, I need to get my copy of the book. Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. But here's what I'm going to say to everybody that's tuned in, watching. Do us a favor and actually go and visit Dr. Roberts' website, and it's the stillhereseries.com /store. The stillhereseries.com /store. If you look at the tick on the bottom of your screen, you'll see how you can get your autographed copy directly from Dr. Roberts, because this is an amazing, powerful book. And he's shedding some light on some things that have happened. How his mom went from just like as we've heard, the transition, the beautiful mom that was energetic, full of life, and really, always dressed to the nines, to becoming the woman that didn't even remember who he was, and was calling him by her brother's name, and didn't even remember who her husband was, but was afraid or fearful of something as simple as water or welcome mat. You never know what life has in store for you in the long run. But Dr. Roberts stood up and passed the test, and was there for his mom, for his dad, as a caretaker. I see there's a few comments that came across. One for you, Dr. Roberts, was and this is from Shadina Divine. Thanks for sharing. Question: what did you do to keep doubt and stress at bay?
What I did to keep doubt and stress at bay, my prayer life got big. So I mean, that was it. It was praying and just seeking guidance. I'm a Christian, so I see the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and it just led me to know what to do when things had to happen. Because I didn't know what to do when she didn't want to cross the welcome mat. I didn't know what to do when she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize her own reflection. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think, because it was stunning. It was shocking. And so the other thing is just reading and learning and understanding the disease is what kept me grounded as well. So I had to do three things. I had to conquer my fears, so I was able to care, and so I was able to cope, because I had to just figure out a way just to cope from day to day. And it was just hard to cope sometimes, because I would be so sad sometimes about what was happening and how their life was just spiraling out of control. And so I would just go home, and I go in the car after I get out and leave my parents' house, and I would cry for a long time before I even went home, just in the car. And even with that, I would just, I think a lot of it just is releasing. Just when you feel you have to cry, you just cry, and you just keep moving.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, that's one piece of advice. You took the advice my mom gave me a long time ago. She said sometimes life is gonna hurt. She saying it's gonna tear you a new one. She said, but if you got to go in that corner, cry it out. But when you come out, you better come out fighting. And if you can't think of nothing else to say, just repeat the Lord's Prayer over and over and over again. And it sounds like that's what took you through and got you through the storm, right? I want to know because for writers out there, there's a lot of people that have these heavy stories, and they have they've been through some things, and it's like, well, I just can't get it out. I just can't get it out. It's too personal. It's too heavy. But you said, yeah, this is personal, and this is heavy. But what is it that? How did you write this amazing book? Like, what was your process?
My process was simply, I'm gonna say this, it was almost like going to church. And when I say that, I had, you always got your opening song. and so,
Mhm.
and so then you had your scripture and you had your prayer, and then you have your story. And that's pretty much how I wrote the book. I put together like me a structure, and I just filled in the blanks. You know, that's how I did it. I really just put together me a structure and identify all the things I wanted to share in the book, and I just filled in the blanks. And the blanks weren't hard to fill in because um, I had I've gone through it all. It was
Yeah.
just a matter of where to put. It was just a matter of where I just actually just filling the blanks in. That's all I did. So that was my process, and I was the one thing I will say is that when I was in the writing process, I touched it every day.
Come on.
I might have not spent an hour on it or 2 hours on it, but what I did, if I spent no more than 15 minutes on it, that was enough because it kept me connected to what I was trying to, the message I was trying to deliver through the book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. You said one. I like the fact that the way that you broke it down. You said I had my structure for each one of my chapters, and then I just had to fill in the blanks because these were you weren't what you did was you documented history, right?
Hmm.
Your story is your mom's legacy, is your mom's history, and you were able to go back to those memories, and it sounds like that's what kept her there with you while you were getting it out, so that you were honoring her legacy. Um,
Another thing I did too, I did a lot of My mother was a storyteller, and so we had this round kitchen table in her kitchen. And as growing up, my whole life, we always had a round kitchen table, and she always sat at 7 o'clock, and I sat at 2 o'clock,
mm,
and I would sit right across from her, and then she would just tell all these amazing stories about her growing up. And so, and I heard those stories like over and I mean, many, many times over. So I retained all that knowledge that she shared with me. And so what I did, I started retelling her stories back to her when she got, lost in her memories with Alzheimer's. And that's what I did. And then and when you think about it, do you remember that one book called that one movie called The Notebook?
oh yeah.
And that's what the guy was. I didn't think about it until after I lived it, but that's what he was doing. He would read. He would read his wife's diary, and then she'll say that's a nice story. Then as she kept listening, then she remembered, oh, that's me. That's you.
Hmm.
And that's the same thing my mother did. I tell these stories to her, and then she'll say, "Oh, that's a nice story." And then she may come along and say, "Oh, I remember that." And then she remember.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. Is just getting them to, you got to spend that time with them, remembering the past, so they can be lucid in the present.
Yeah.
And all that takes time, and that means you're going to be there with them for hours doing that. But that's the thing. We live in this hurry society we live in. People don't want to take their time. And maybe they can take their time, because, people working and all of that. But um, I took that time, and that's what I did. I did. And I believe it made it made her quality, it made our quality of life better. And that's what it's really all about. Making the quality of life as best you can with the circumstances. So it's just, but you just got, but the bigger piece of it, it's all about sacrifice, and to love someone, to love anything, love anyone, it takes sacrifice. And if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, you can't give that person or that situation what it needs to sustain and have quality. And that's why I think I've learned that you got to give people that you love that time. And it's not all about you. It's all, you got to be very selfless to be a caregiver. And what I've learned is that a lot of people just not there.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lose a lot. And when a person gets sick like this, you're gonna lose some people along the way. And so that was part of my challenge too. I had to grieve some relationships because some people, family members, just stopped coming around altogether. And you can't make someone be something that they're not. And so you have to accept that that's not who they are. You may want them to be something different, but if they're not going to have actions that show it, there's nothing you can do about it. And only thing you can do is model what should be done. But if they don't want to do it, you can't make them. And if you try to make them, you shouldn't want to make them.
Yeah.
And the reason I would say that is because of it's nothing worse than making someone do something that they don't want to do. Because especially in a situation when someone's sick, like my mother was, because if you do that, somebody can end up getting hurt. And so I learned real quick, if they don't want to do it, I don't want them doing it. I don't want them doing it. I mean, if they don't want to do it, I don't want to force them. I don't want to embarrass them. I don't want them doing it, because if they do it, they're gonna make things worse than what they are. Somebody's gonna get hurt, or they're gonna be so neglectful that my mother may hurt herself.
Yeah, and then they're doing it out of resentment instead of because it's something that they want to do. Yeah, man.
Right.
You've shared a lot, and here's what I'm going to say to everybody that's out there, because we've actually come to the end of Book Talk Live with Dr. Norris L. Roberts Jr. Go grab the book, because he talks about a lot of this in the book. He shares his journey. He pours his heart out in this book, and it is an amazing book about the love that he has for his mother, and he did something that most people still to this day will not do, and that is you captured her legacy in excellence. So for that, I salute you, bro. I
Thank
definitely
you.
salute you. Right. What do you want to say to the people out there? Let's close this out.
I just want to say to you guys, I thank you. I mean, for your support. Thank you for giving me this platform, this opportunity to use Sugar Ray. To everyone that's listening and will listen to this, just thank you for taking the time out. And I hope that I've shed some light and some insight about, caregiving for a person with Alzheimer's and what the challenges are. And I just also hope that that my dad and I can be examples for you all of how to care for a person that you love that is sick with Alzheimer's dementia. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And there's something that you say often. Um, you say when you do something,
I said love is the most excellent way. Do it in love.
come on. And that's how we're gonna end the show. Do it in love. Listen, we love y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Thank y'all for tuning
Thank
in.
you. Bye-bye.